Hello, 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 people of the internet. Ian, also the Freedom Astrologer once again here, and I'm sitting here with my good friend Donny, and I think we're on the fifth episode or fourth, somewhere along those lines. It's been quite a series, let's put it that way, with our
Quite a
psychic
journey as well.
a
Yeah.
real journey, a long journey with the psychic intuitive series. And today or tonight or wherever you are, we have another, let's say, deeper intuitive psychic topic for you. And I'll give it to Donny, and he will speak a little bit about what we are going to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, since we've covered like the three clair abilities like clairvoyance, audience, and sentience, I think we're going to cover the fourth main type, which is called claircognizant. So claircognizant is really is also known as clear knowing, and is actually unlike other forms of intuition. And in order to develop clear knowing, one may need to completely trust one's inner knowing, regardless of whether or not you have evidence to support it, because as the term clair knowing actually infers, you just know. And this is the biggest step one can take in terms of trusting in one's own inner guidance. One actually perceives the absolute perfection of the universe and become one with it. And when one actually functions on a day-to-day basis through one's knowing, one may become an eventual enlightened being. So it's worthwhile to look into this clair ability and develop it. So in short, anything that has ever existed, is existing now, or will exist in the future is accessible to each and every one of us through the gift of claircognizance. And once separation from the universe dissolves and the limitations of time actually fall away, as one delves deeper and deeper into this journey. And one will also come to understand that one actually creates and changes one's own reality via developing and mastering this clair ability. So in other words, when one actually delves in deeper and deeper into claircognizance, you may actually experience what I call a reality shift, especially on the mental plane. And if we link back this clair ability to a particular chakra, it's actually the most associated with the crown chakra. Mm-hmm. So it's right over here. And the crown chakra actually houses receptive discernment. And I must say at this point that significators for claircognizance will actually overlap with clairvoyance, which is ruled by the third eye chakra. And also significators relating to clairaudience, which is ruled by the throat chakra, because all these are so close to the brain. And one more thing I want to add is that since we're talking about the crown chakra that rules claircognizance, one can feel kind of airy-fairy a lot, when you're too stuck in the crown chakra. So other lineages have actually talked about the heart chakra and also the solar plexus chakra being like the tool to ground or embody this claircognizance ability. And since one of the chakra I just mentioned is the solar plexus, so somewhat is also overlapping with clairsentience significators. So you may observe in this conversation that the significators we're going to talk about later in this video, there's going to be a lot of overlapping in that respect. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit of because this ability, you know, it's a weird one in my opinion,
Yeah.
and because it's like we live a lot still in kind of like the left brain world. So the left brain really wants proof of things. But like in this case, with this ability, this kind of gift, I would say, it's almost like there's no proof, only your knowing, and the knowing or the strength of the knowing is the proof. Now obviously if you kind of develop it and kind of learn about it, and then, let's say, even test it out in the real world, then you know, at least you will have the proof in your mind that, you know, these knowings, these things, this information that is coming to you is, you know, true. So you don't have to doubt it anymore, even if, you know, other people outside of you or you're next to you doubt it. You will can, you know, start to um, build that confidence up, because otherwise, like, the knowing comes in and you, it's really easy to disregard it as well, because it's, you know, it comes out of the blue. There's no kind of like, you know, ghost sitting there and saying to you, like waving their finger. It's like it's like the wisdom comes and you're like, okay, is it really going to happen? You know, what do I do with this? You know, these types of ideas can come as well. So test it out, start seeing, start, you know, when these sensations or, you know, the knowing, actually the knowing comes, you know, test it out in the real world and start seeing if it is manifesting. Yeah.
Yeah. To elaborate more about claircognizance, it's alternatively, the more layman explanation can be like intuitively knowing things about people, about places, and also things as if the information was already present in the mind or within the mind. And I find that people who are inclined towards this gift or talent, they can somewhat experience sudden bursts of information, understanding, and revelations as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like one's brain actually get an immediate download from the intuitive side, just like when one actually download a large amount of information into your computer hard drive, it's almost like it stays in there. It is almost like imprinted on the mental plane. And this download, usually it's like within seconds, it just occurs just like that. It actually tells me that when someone is very claircognizant, they are very much attuned to their intuition a lot. There's such a great connection with that part of their brain. Do you have anything to add?
I have a couple of things. Just
Any examples?
first, I wanted to say a couple of things I've noticed. Like these people saying is like, I'm not sure how I know this, but, and then the, you know, the information comes, or I have no logical explanation to this, or I have no logical explanation to what I'm about to say, but again, the kind of intuitive, you know, very, very insightful things sometimes, you know, from the future, or, you know, whatever it is in that moment come. And these are, I've noticed that these are the things they might say. So if you notice yourself saying these things, you have inclination towards this gift or talent, I would say.
I mean, how many times have you kind of in conversation say, I know, right? At the end of, you know, a break in the conversation, I know, right? You just know, you know what I mean? Or you start off with the sentence, I know, or something like, I don't know, but I just know somehow.
Also, like one of the real world examples I can really give you is, let's say you're in a kind of conversation. Maybe it's your friend, maybe it's your acquaintance, and they're talking to you about the relationship. Maybe there's struggles in the relationship, or some things they're about to do in their intimate relationship, or maybe marriage. And you're sitting there and listening. It's all fine and good, and, you know, it's a conversation. And suddenly it's like they're going to break up. Like something internally is going to, like divorce is coming. And I've started to notice this actually with myself, and like later, almost like in this specific example, like almost like 6 months later, I received the news. This is my example I'm actually using, but I noticed that actually the news came in that the couple had unfortunately broken up. Now, I'm not saying you should say that. I didn't say obviously anything, but just like noticing these will start to kind of like reaffirm to yourself that, oh, okay, so maybe I'm not crazy, I'm not just thinking about these things, it's rather it's like some form of information somewhere from the ethers is coming in. Now, what do you do with that information is another different kind of story. We'll probably touch upon that in the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, like this clear knowing, claircognizance, some people call it divine knowing or drop-in insight, because it's like this light bulb just illuminates suddenly within your head, like be it a sudden idea or bright vision forward. You almost can envision the future, that it can really scare people. I mean, if it comes out from your mouth, that is like, what do you actually observe? What do you actually see on the mental plane within? And but I honestly feel that this claircognizance that really is well, I actually say from experience, because I have a lot of indicators for this particular one. It actually gives me a greater understanding of life and love. What this has blessed me, because this in turn actually changes the quality and experience in my life. Besides saving time, of course. You know what I mean? You don't have to dig, 10 million things in order to know. Sometimes it's a split second and it just kind of downloads into your mind and says, this is what it is. And do you have anything to add?
I have one more thing that I think can help make it even more kind of tangible is
right.
like examples of, let's say you're maybe traveling somewhere, or you're kind of in between things of going somewhere, and maybe it's a train or a bus, and you're in another country, or like a far away from home, let's say. And then you get this sudden inclination of like, I have to take this train, or I have to go on this bus specifically and maybe sit in that seat. These are also examples how this gift can come, and is definitely at first I would say it's really, really uncomfortable to do, because it's sometimes like it's really strange things that maybe this energy or this information is asking you to kind of do. But once you start kind of taking those small steps and you see like, so this was the reason why I was supposed to go on this train, or why I was supposed to take this course, even, maybe you see a course on online or something. And then after you start seeing this, you can, let's say, put the puzzle together. But like the first step is still kind of like trusting that voice, or it's not even a voice, it's like a knowing. I think the knowing is the better word here. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's almost like the knowing of an event, occurrence, intention, or even another facet of existence. You just know it even without any evidence that lead to that knowledge. So that's why there's this kind of, if you're not used to it, there's this resistance. And even despite having no information about an event, I would say that claircognizant people, they can feel that they know a piece of information that they have yet to be presented with, but somehow they will be consistently shown that it's correct by the outcome of the situation nonetheless. So it's almost like there's this kind of elbow grease that you have to really put into to develop this clair ability. And if you're blessed with that, it's even more important that you trust your inner knowing, your inner guidance. That's why claircognizance is also known as divine knowing. so that it becomes clear to you, this sense of knowing. And because if you actually get down to work with it more and more, eventually what it does is that it will heighten that intuitive side of your brain, and that gut instinct of feeling will get even more stronger. And you will feel that you get regular flashes of insights and inspiration that comes along with it. And I'm not saying that being claircognizant means you're illogical, because most people that have natural claircognizance or claircognizant abilities are logical people, and they enjoy kind of thinking things out. But it's almost like they get that divine inspiration and download of ideas that suddenly pop into their heads quite a bit. I will also say that, I wonder if you agree with this, that claircognizant people also regularly experience feelings of déjà vu.
I think that's an amazing point, actually. Really good.
It's almost like you've been there, done that before.
Yeah.
Or had a dream about that something as well.
It's really interesting. What I've experienced is, especially during eclipses, or these kind of like energetic openings, we can call them. During these types of, if you have this inclination towards this gift, it's like in these moments, it's especially kind of more even, I don't know, tangible, or it's right in your face. That those
Right.
deja vus, like it's like almost like constant deja vu. Have I done this? Like it's almost confusing because you think you've done this so many times, and most probably you have, but like that the sensation is really, really evident, or the experience of the deja vu. I'm really glad you brought up that point.
And also, there are bound to be some skills for a claircognizant driven person to pick skills or things up very quickly without the training or practice. It's almost like you've done this before.
Mm-hmm.
There's a divine knowing of how to like get certain things done, even if you've never done it before. And the mind is usually full of ideas and possibilities. So this will be the sudden flash or downloads of ideas within seconds that you may or may not want to share, because sometimes you have to face the ramifications of sharing. Yeah. But just spending a lot of time thinking a lot as well. That comes pretty regularly for people who have claircognizant abilities. And it's as though that one feels as though the mind works very differently from other people. And there's this kind of inner download, and then it's followed by external confirmation that comes along with it.
That's I think that's what I would, if you've seen yourself having any sort of inclination towards it, this is what you need to really start to kind of pay attention to, I would say. Then the more you pay attention, the more you see it, the more stronger it kind of gets, in my experience.
So let me just summarize into a few, a list of points so that you can identify whether are you claircognizant. So you may experience a lot of aha moments. And sometimes you know things, but you can't really explain why, because you just know. You may also experience persistent thoughts or messages intuitively. And you get also a lot of creative ideas that just came out of nowhere. There's also enjoyment in logical thinking and analyzing stuff. Loving reading and writing, I would say, is also a quality of being claircognizant, because one of the skills that is linked to claircognizance is automatic writing. So you just stare, just have your piece of paper and pen, and you just kind of, it's almost like you're channeling almost via the crown chakra. And people like to come to you for advice because you just know. Or one of the other side quality is that you know when someone is trustworthy or not. So this is somewhat linked to that crown chakra, which is the main chakra that's talking about claircognizance, and the solar plexus, which is linked to clairsentience. So you're using your crown chakra to sniff out bullshit that's around you. And last but not least, sometimes your words of wisdom magically flow through you without any thinking. It just comes just straight out. It's almost like you're an impromptu preacher.
Yeah, certainly. It's like, and you're kind of, after the thing has been done or the words have come out, you're kind of like, there, where did that came from? Or like, what happened here?
But you just know in the second or in the moment that that is what needs to be said.
Yeah.
And also one thing though, a claircognizant person can usually finish the other person's sentence. That's what I realized.
They know what's coming. They know what's coming.
They know what's coming. Yeah.
But I also wanted to add with the saying or the words, it's almost like the energy can get so strong. It's hard for you to kind of withhold the kind of, whether we want to call it channeling or energy or whatever it is. It's hard to withhold it. So it's almost like it has to be said. So it's coming out of you, very, very automatically.
And what main planet would you think is linked to claircognizance?
Oh, there it is. I think it's behind you there, but let's put it out there. It's we attach Jupiter to this, and because Jupiter is so much connected and so well connected to, or even say easy access to these other realms and etheric realms, or these other realities that already are existing. So it's easier to, let's say, access them if you have the let's say the following significators, also what we're going to discuss now, I think.
Yeah, because when I think about Jupiter and claircognizance, they go so well together, because Jupiter actually represents foresight, and Jupiter has also a very strong prophetic quality to it. So that's kind of, it syncs in very well with the realm, with this ability. And when Jupiter actually touches or aspects the outer planets, such as Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, or when Jupiter is in a water or air sign. When I say water, those are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And the air sign, I would say more of, I would say Gemini and Aquarius. Not as much Libra in terms of sign. And we also cannot exclude the houses that's naturally linked to Jupiter. And the main house that I want to link towards being claircognizant is a very emphasized 9th house. It could be a stellium, or it could be the ruler very much connected to the rest of the chart. Because when I think about Jupiter and the 9th house, it's really that strong of an intuition.
Oh, yeah.
And 9th house, if we think about it, is the house of the divine God, or the divine messages that come towards us. And so things like premonitions are very much a deja vu feeling for people who are claircognizant. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe it's self-evident, but I just wanted to add like Jupiter in the ninth house already is quite a good indication, in its own house, and water houses as well, fourth, 12th, and eighth. I think we've kind of mentioned them in each of our videos, but they're so important, guys. With these, doesn't matter really which ability, but like the water houses need to be kind of
Or watery sign planets is somehow connected as well. Or the ruler of that house, the ninth house. But of course,
you mean ruler of the ninth in watery houses or watery signs?
Yeah, or connected to some outer planets. So I would just like to segue a little bit into for a few minutes to talk about how you can develop or strengthen that claircognizance if you know that you have it.
Nice.
Perhaps you can focus on your crown chakra, and this can be via chakra clearing meditations, because we are living in such a time whereby information are just flying all around us, and especially air sign people, or a lot of air houses, third, 7th, and 11th house emphasized people, they usually have a lot of what I call like chakra wedges, as in they have a lot of, they tend to have the crown chakra blocked more easily than other element. So you may want to look into that and look up some chakra clearing meditation, especially meant for this part. And if you know you have the skill, but you're not attuning to that, maybe you can try out on the regular in practicing automatic writing. And I also find that regular affirmations are also very effective, because it slowly but surely breaks down the polarity resistance that's perhaps blocking you from connecting with that ability within you. And last but not least, I would say that set your intentions and ask your guides, and some may be praying to angels, or some may be praying to just like the source for confirmation of things. So you've been thinking about all these things within you, then you may want to look for like, okay, so like you may just ask the external environment for like, show me a sign, show me a message. And if time and time again, it has shown to you that what you're thinking is just not a figment of your imagination, or you're crazy, then you may want to look at the next step of things. Do you have anything to add?
I think what you said the last part is specifically or especially important in my mind, because it's really easy to kind of like chalk it up, some of these things, and miss like I don't, like almost suppress it. But I do like what Donny said, like start paying attention and start asking those kind of proofs. And you can also write these things down. Let's say maybe you're sitting with a friend, or you're driving a car, and something comes, knowing comes, write it down and see if in 3 months, 6 months, maybe year, maybe week, if something happens, because that again gives the other side of the brain kind of like the knowing, or the proof that this isn't your imagination, craziness, or you're not just thinking about these things, basically.
I think it's really connecting with the third 9 axis, right? Third house is really keeping a journal, like what you said, and writing things down to confirm the 9 house occurrence, of like divine knowing. So you have this third 9 polarity axis that you're connecting to actively to really drive home the fact that there's validation Because if you don't write it down, things will just fly through you and all that. Unless, of course, you have a very good memory. So now let's move on to the rest of the astro-significators, shall we? I've written here Pluto or Uranus in the first house, or even better, conjunct the ascendant.
Would you add Jupiter into that mix as well, if it's conjunct to the AC?
Jupiter as well. Jupiter as well. Or how about a heavy emphasis on 3rd and 9th house axis? But I've also written down the 5th and 11th house axis as well, because Jupiter has natural planetary joy in the 11th house anyways. And then I looked at the polarity opposite, which is the 5th house. Because if I'm not wrong, I actually read somewhere in Vedic astrology is that the 5th house is actually where someone in past lives have studied sacred scriptures. Because it's the 8th house from the 10th.
Like okay, I get it. Career being associated with okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's the 5th and 11th house axis, and also the 3rd and 9th house axis. If there's any like heavy emphasis on those both axes, I would attribute it to claircognizant ability. And besides Jupiter conjunct the ascendant, like you mentioned earlier, Jupiter in the 3rd, 9th axis or 5th and 11th axis, but preferably well aspected. This will give an easier time to integrate that, because when it's hard aspects, it brings along like you may feel burnt by the experience, or there's some kind of resistance. And how about Jupiter and the 3 invisible planets, which are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto? Aspecting personal planets. When I say personal planets, that's Sun all the way to Mars. And I've also added like Chiron, Black Moon Lilith, and White Moon Selene. To or from the 3rd, 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th, and 5th house.
Wow.
So it's quite a long list.
Quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Or you have Jupiter or the 3 invisible planets linked to 3rd, 9th, 5th, 11th, 8th, and 12th house rulers as well.
Yeah. I can't remember if you mentioned I think you mentioned stellium in the 9th, but I just want to mention stellium in Sagittarius as well, because that's obviously it's very, very similar. Again, with the similar, I would say it's more stronger in all those watery houses, 4th, 8th, and 12th. 9th, obviously, extremely like a double whammy there.
Oh, actually, a very connected Jupiter to a lot of planets in your chart. So you filter a lot of your planet's energy through the Jupiter realm as well.
So basically, I mean aspected right now, just to clarify.
Right. And or an unaspected Jupiter.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Because it can
to have reference with the house or something?
Unexpected.
But do you have a preference there with the house, or just basically any unexpected Jupiter?
Unexpected 9th house ruler as well. I've seen that happen for someone I know very well.
There it is.
So guys, it's like 3rd and 9th, 5th and 11th, and then the water houses, particularly 8 and 12. 8 and 12. 4th can also come into play. So you can see there's easily like 7 out of 12 houses that's involved. And also the corresponding signs of this 7 natural zodiac houses as well. So if you have planets in Gemini, Sag, Leo, Aquarius, Pisces, Scorpio, and to some level Leo as well, because it's the natural sign ruler of the fifth house. You can try to test it out for yourself with people around you, and you may observe along the way that they may exhibit certain tendencies or signs that they're claircognizant, like we mentioned before in this chat. Yeah.
One I still have here, I think, is one of maybe my favorites. Let's say maybe if I want to put it on like a top 5, whatever. Moon with Jupiter, especially conjunction, and especially if we're adding already the water signs and water houses. Like in my mind, like, and I've experienced as well, the more you get these, like, we can say again a little bit stronger, more in your face that gift is for you.
And how about the nodal axis falling along the 3rd, 9th axis, or the 5th, 11th axis as well? Or it can also be that the nodal axis rulers falls into either one of these 4 houses.
Yes. I think that's important.
Yeah. So you may have, like, for some, it will be the south node ruler that's falling into the 3rd, 9th, or 5th, 11th, or some can be the north node ruler falling into one of these 4 houses for you.
Or even just the south node in the 9th, for example, just for example.
Yeah. And preferably well aspected. So it won't be, such a potentially stressful experience for you, trying to embody that and develop that more. I'm also thinking about, because we are talking about clear knowing, right? So besides Jupiter, Uranus can also be put into the picture, because Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury.
I would put both in, actually.
Yeah, so people who are like Mercury-Jupiter conjunction.
Oh, yes.
Or Mercury-Uranus conjunction.
Oh, yes. Jupiter-Uranus.
Jupiter-Uranus as well, because it magnifies that visionary look forward. Because when we talk about Jupiter and Uranus, they are both forward-looking planets. And if I linking back to my knowledge of sibling constellations, usually the 3rd child of any pecking order, they embody Jupiter and Uranus energy a lot. So usually the 3rd child in the sibling constellation, they usually are more like claircognizant than usual.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So if you have like Jupiter, Uranus by location or by sign, maybe they are in their own sign, falling into the 3rd, 9th axis, 5th, 11th axis, or 8th and 12th house, look out for that. Yeah. Preferably not afflicted or like harshly aspected.
Yeah, it will be just more difficult.
Yeah.
I think also, sorry, just to kind of maybe one piece. If you have like, maybe you have some of these, what we've talked about, the whatever it is, Jupiter there, or Jupiter with the moon, or Jupiter with the Uranus, or whatever. But you have like Saturn square, Saturn opposition there. You're going to doubt it a little bit more. It's going to be more difficult to bring it out and use it. But with Saturn, it's always about putting in the material, practical efforts and tangible.
Or
efforts.
Saturn demands tangible proof all the time.
Yes, constant proving of yourself. Like, yes, this is happening. Yes, no. Annoying,
or
but can be done.
You may actually fear it as well. Jupiter is fear.
Yeah.
How about we talk about some of the generational outer planet combination pairings? What I got here, or what I wrote here, is like Uranus-Neptune generational aspects. Somewhat those are connected to personal planets, Sun to Mars, Chiron, Black Moon Lilith, and White Moon Selene. So when we talk about Uranus-Neptune aspect, that can be starting from the conjunction all the way up to their opposition. So for people who have like personal planets at the same time aspecting Uranus and Neptune, yes. The more this kind of energy comes in for you, this claircognizant ability, and Uranus-Pluto generational aspect, I find that also comes in very strongly as well for people. Because I've got a few clients that's born, I think the middle of the 1960s, I think I mentioned before in another video in this series that Uranus-Pluto was conjunct in the mid-1960s in the sign of Virgo. And both of these planets are opposing Chiron in Pisces.
Okay.
That's for those people that's born in the 1960s, in the middle of it. And then I think for a short period of time, Saturn in Pisces also joined that opposition as well.
So fear as well with this.
I've actually seen clients who like took a long time Saturn to actually embody the other three coming together in opposition kind of aspect, or because we're talking about Uranus and Pluto opposing Chiron, they may just side with the Chiron or project the Chiron energy out there and just blame God. Why do I have this? Why can't I just live in the, the earthly mundane realm, Virgo?
Why I can't be normal or
why I can't be normal, So there's always this kind of infighting. And so if, for example, you have a planet that's personal planet that is from Sun to Mars, and is simultaneously connected via aspect to Uranus and Pluto, as well. I have both of these. Got Sun connected to all three outer planets and Venus connected to all three outer planets. So I know what I'm talking about.
That's always good if you have like practical examples of people doing that or using it in the real world.
Yeah. So if you know that you're gonna have this kind of experiences, it is even more important to have regular habits or practices that really stills the mind, because otherwise it'll just be you'll be always going through this weird funk or weird rut of like you're caught between the physical realm and the invisible realm. That's actually applying to all the clair abilities, and you'll be going through this inner struggle and subsequently depression that comes along with that.
I think I'm really glad that you actually mentioned this, because like it's literally, it sometimes feels like living between worlds, and it's like you're not really here,
one foot in
there.
each.
It's like, where am I supposed to be, and like what am I supposed to do with this? And it's like, like a lot of grounding. Grounding is always good. Walking barefoot, if you're anywhere, you can do that, and meditation practices really good to kind of calm the mind down. And
because
actually, I do like journaling part as well here. Really like it.
Well, because what I find therapeutic about journaling is that it actually focuses to counterbalance that ninth house energy. Because when you write and write something down, it's a very third house kind of, write down your thoughts and all that. You're communicating out those things that you know or feel divinely or intuitively. You're actually balancing the axis a lot. And this is also very much can be applied to the 5th and 11th axis, because we did mention about Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius indirectly, and Jupiter in the 11th house. Or the 11th house ruler can be involved, that ties into the 9th house. It can be that. Or the 9th and 11th house planets are connected via aspects. Could be that as well. And if you want to disconnect from the 11th house energy, you have to go to the 5th house, which is really what you do in your downtime. Just enjoy and live in the moment. Because 5th house is really spontaneous. So, and 11th house is really like that vision into the future. That's why 11th house is also talking about hopes and dreams as well. It's very futuristic looking. And you're going to sometimes disconnect and enjoy the 5th house energy of living in the present now, be spontaneous. Although we are living in a dystopian time where anything Leo is being like smashed, especially this and next year. So yeah, like we can't just go to a restaurant as and when we love it, or meet someone, you know, to have a good little conversation in the pub. You know, it's not as easy for that. Or we can take up a hobby that take our minds off the, you know, like yeah, 5th house things like hobbies and all that.
Painting. I love painting.
Then you're connected with your Venus and Neptune, man. A lot. Do we have any examples?
Yeah, let's do examples, guys. Let's do examples. So shall I start or yeah?
Yeah. What do you have?
Oh, there it is. So I brought, I think a lot of you guys will know this person. He is passed on from this reality, unfortunately, in my opinion. This is the chart of Rudolf Steiner. He's a channeler, teacher, spiritual teacher. I would call him like maybe even the bringer of the new age of spirituality into this realm. I think he was that influential, and he's very. I don't know if he's directly connected, or he was. I think he was part of the creation of Waldorf schools, or maybe he was even the main guy who because there were other people involved of the Waldorf schools and anthroposophy, if you know that word as well. And he's been, you know, very influential, I think, in my personal development as well. But let's look at his chart here, because it's an intriguing chart, and probably going to recognize already a lot of the configurations we've been talking about in this video and previous ones. I will just start from the beginning and just let's go into it, and then Donny will jump in as well. But first and foremost, already the ascendant is in the sign of Scorpio. So immediately to me that kind of shows that this person is very much deeply connected to these other realms and deeper realms of esoteric realms of existence or matters. Now, moving forward, we can also see that there's a stellium in the 5th house and in the sign of Pisces. So already, you know, these things, these matters are coming together. And furthermore, in that stellium, Mercury is conjunct Neptune. So already a very, very intuitive kind of messages coming his way constantly from these, you know, Pisces, other dimensional realms, spiritual, psychic realms. Very intuitive person we can see here. Now, let's move maybe a little bit forward to what we talked about today. And I'll switch to Placidus, because with Placidus, we can see that Jupiter is in its own house, in the ninth house. And you know, guys, this we've been hashing this tonight, so it's already a pretty strong indication that this person was, you know, intuitive and getting messages, but also these kind of knowings were constantly coming his way. And if you look at Placidus and whole sign, you can see that the south node is in the ninth house. So this person has a really, you know, in a watery sign as well. So this person has this easy access to these, let's say, higher wisdom, higher knowledge, and in my mind, they're using it quite, or were using it quite beautifully. Now, one interesting thing I really wanted to mention with this as well is, I think it just looks better on the whole sign, so I'll just keep it here. The Jupiter in whole sign is in the 10th, so you know, this already talks about the career of the person, but it's also very much close to the MC, you know, the higher mission we have in this life. And when it's Jupiter, you know, this, you know, I would say this intuitive, psychic, spiritual matters really come strongly into your life. You know, we can also talk about the fact that, you know, the person will become famous, and they were quite famous in their own time, and later on as well. But it also brings in the intuitive, spiritual, inner knowing very strongly to the person's life as well.
Very strong fifth house connection, because when I look at that Jupiter midheaven ruler, which is the sun, is in Pisces in the fifth whole sign, and moon is in the 11th, opposing that Mercury Neptune in the fifth. So you can see how the fifth house energy is connected to the 11th, and then via rulership, moon rules the ninth. And so Rudolf Steiner actually used all his this kind of inner knowing, claircognizance, some form of clairvoyance and audience and sentience as well. All three, he has it.
I think he really did. And I just wanted to mention quickly one other thing, because what he also did, which is really important, because you can see, guys, that he also has a lot of earth in his chart. So what he did with this, you know, let's say higher wisdom, you know, these esoteric realms, he really brought it into the material and practical realm, like the Waldorf schools. There's so many actually pieces of wisdom from him in his teachings and in his books that touch upon, you know, societal systems, economic systems. You know, he really brought these two worlds together. And this is what I wanted to also show you, because, you know, Saturn in Virgo, Moon in Virgo, Pluto and Mars both in Taurus as well. So there's a nice mixture of everything. And I think this is one of the reasons why he was so maybe good in bringing these higher wisdoms to the material and earthly realm.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Mars and Pluto conjunction, because it co-rule his ascendant, both planets. And both Mars and Pluto are ruled by Venus in a sign of Aquarius, opposing that Jupiter again. So you can see how he uses that to formulate models and even schools for kids, because you can see his whole sign fifth house is so prominent. How about Placidus? What is actually in the fifth house, I wonder?
Mercury and Neptune.
Okay. So you can see Mercury is so close to the fifth house cusp, Placidus.
Yeah, right now you're noticing it's like a very wide T-square here. Yeah, it's very wide. Okay. I mean, we can count almost, you know. But yeah, it was just amazing, in my opinion, amazing chart.
If we actually include the nodal axis, we actually have a mystic rectangle, which we mentioned, I think, in our intro to the series. You can see the moon that's opposing Mercury and Neptune. And if we include the north and south node, we actually get a mystic rectangle as well.
Okay.
And we have a T-square here.
I
Sun,
mean,
Saturn, all squaring Uranus in the 8th whole sign.
this is the weird one because this is 7. Yeah, this is 76. Yeah, this is a T-square, and also because this is a wide one, it's almost like he has two of them, you know.
Right.
Two T-squares.
I would say by orb, maybe it's yes, sign-based T-square, yes, but
Yeah.
if by degree and we, have a pretty tight range, then that Sun, Saturn, and Uranus will form a T-square because Sun is connected to Venus's co-rulers, both of them, Uranus and Saturn. Because both planets rule Aquarius, and that Venus and Chiron are there in a 4th whole sign house. Can you just zoom out to the other chart, the Placidus one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can see like Venus is in the 3rd house, Placidus. So is that communicating new age, Aquarius, ideas. He's very much into writing books.
Yeah, very
because
much.
Venus in the 3rd house can be very much a writer, prolific writer, and all that. And Uranus is very close to the 8th house cusp. Another one of those indications of flashes of divine knowledge in a sign of Gemini.
Yeah, from the other realms of even maybe ghosts and spirits.
Or just realms that we don't usually see with our 5 senses, but also 8th house. 8th house is also the school of life.
Didn't know that.
So what he actually did was like show people there's an alternative way of learning and education for the kids. Because I myself went to the Rudolf Steiner School in Sydney like some years back when I had time on my hands I had one of those free days while going there to do some workshops, and there's some books I just picked up, and the lady at the bookstore, right when I walked in, we had a good conversation, and she was just explaining to me his legacy and his work and all that. Yeah, very much so. Okay, so what do we have for my example? I actually chose Aleister Crowley. And what's really important to start off with is that he is born in between eclipses. So he's born on the 12th, and there was a solar eclipse on the 29th of September. And then 2 days after his birth, there was a lunar eclipse at 21 degrees of Aries. So this I would call it prenatal, although it occurred 2 days after his actual birth, is falling onto his Chiron in Placidus' 10th house. So very much, because I mentioned Chiron as one of the connections where we talk about claircognizance, so the inner knowing is really there. And intuition that comes along with it. Aleister Crowley also has Uranus in the 1st house, just like your example for Rudolf Steiner as well. So they can really bring that inner knowing.
You mean Edgar Casey? You meant Edgar Casey?
Can you look back at your example? Because I remember that.
Because Steiner had Uranus in the 8th.
Okay, so it could be Edgar Casey. Yeah, it could be Edgar Casey. Yeah. Edgar Casey, because I think both
these
are
all
Leo
psychic
rising
dudes.
Yeah, both are Leo rising, with Uranus being the next planet to rise to the ascendant. And I'm looking at the Placidus house, and the south node and north node are in the third, ninth axis.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly in the ninth house, the moon is also there.
Moon, Pisces, moon. Mm-hmm.
And moon in Pisces. And for this dude, Mercury and Jupiter are conjunct in Placidus' fourth house and whole sign fourth house in the sign of Scorpio.
Yes.
And the moon in the ninth house is ruling the 12th house.
Oh, yes. Bringing all of that extreme, I don't know, psychic energy to say, I guess.
And he's also got south node and all the 3 asteroids of the 4 in the third house. And the asteroids are all falling into the sign of Virgo. And all these asteroids in Virgo are ruled by Mercury that's conjunct Jupiter in a sign of Scorpio. So he's written a lot of occult books. He's also written, he's also touched on the topic of esoteric astrology as well, if I recall, and also books concerning magic, which is very much Scorpio's realm as well.
Totally.
What else can I say about this chart? So 9th house ruler, co-ruler is Jupiter. In the 4th, in the sign of Scorpio, okay, that's one. The other co-ruler of the Pisces cusp, which is Neptune. Neptune is pretty close to Chiron as well. Although they are not in the same sign, but it's still conjunct Chiron. This can really emphasize the imaginative, intuitive connection to the invisible realm as well. And he actually used this to his advantage in his career because it falls into his 10th house.
I also notice right now, because by whole sign, he also has Venus, especially good in Libra, in the third house.
In the third house, together with the sun, yeah.
Together in conjunction with the sun, similar to Steiner, and he was also, writing a lot of books and writing. So quite intriguing to see that.
So if we use whole sign, it'll be south node, sun and Venus, all in the whole sign third house.
Mm-hmm. I think in my mind, I always need to mention when we're talking about psychic intuitive abilities, if you have, I know it's out of sign but still in Placidus, you have in this case the stellium in the 4th house. So to me, it's already a very, very, very kind of good indication that this person was very sensitive, intuitive, and felt a lot. We can say that.
I also want to mention part of fortune as well. Because part of fortune is in the watery sign of Pisces and is in his 8th house, Placidus. And also whole sign 8th house.
As well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's closely conjunct white moon Selene.
That's interesting.
So it brings really that lunar energy into the watery Piscean realms, and that 8th house, which is anything that's occult or magic again. And those are the topics that he really touched on over his prolific career. Yeah, as a writer and novelist. And I think that's about it from me.
That's about it, yeah. I think we went pretty long this time, but I think I always enjoy the examples, I guess, the most. Maybe because they bring in the tangible, what we're kind of yammering on here about, like how to use it really in a practical life. And hopefully, guys, for you, like these 2 examples show how to use these energies in very, very, practical ways. These both people, they brought this wisdom, this kind of higher knowledge into the practical earthly realms for people to learn from, to study from, to grow from. And still to this day, children are for example, learning in Waldorf schools and reading Crowley's books. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and one last thing I want to just talk about Aleister Crowley's chart. If we widen the orb between Chiron and Saturn, he also is like Rudolf Steiner has a mystic rectangle as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So it's one of those that keeps showing up. That's why it's called mystic rectangle. There's something mystical regarding that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's it for today or for tonight. And
Yeah.
if you want to get a reading with us, the links will be in the description below.
Yeah.
And I think we at least have one more episode of this series.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe more. But
Well,
stay
I've
tuned.
actually gave a preview what we're about to talk, right?
Yeah,
In the next episode.
you did.
Yeah, something around that.
Yeah. So guys, stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right, ciao.
Bye for now.